All right, welcome in, race fans. We've got the INDYCAR preview show for the Monterey GP at Laguna Seca coming up this weekend. Practice in a couple of hours. I am joined by principal software engineer William Lottie. And joining us, we have Ben Scruggs and Chase Holden, our two wonderful guests that I'm sure you guys have all come to recognize by now. With that, I'm going to hand it off to William, and let's get into it.
All right. Yeah, we are heading down the home stretch of the 2025 NTT IndyCar Series season, and our fourth to last stop is at Laguna Seca, a historic track in California, famous for the corkscrew. See if anybody goes for a pass there this year. There's a very famous one back in the 90s. Maybe you've seen the video of that. I think it was Zanardi versus Herta, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway,
illegal pass.
Yes, an illegal pass. Like F1 would be rioting if you made a pass like that, just like blowing the corner.
I don't want to get too deep into it, but I mean, there's track limits, and then there's just it completely ignoring a corner.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say.
He was dogging it. I loved it.
Yeah, so see if we get anything like that this time around. Alex Palou couldn't quite seal the deal last time out at Toronto. Award took the win. Palou struggled where strategy went the wrong way. And so Award's still in the fight, but he still needs everything to go right. And let's talk about the winners and losers fantasy-wise from Toronto. Everyone up $1 million or more would be Ericsson up $2 million. Simpson up 1.9 million, getting on the podium. Kiffin Simpson on the podium. Kiffin Simpson, the best finishing Ganassi driver. Good for him. Beating a couple of legends in Alex Palou, Scott Dixon. Renus VK also on the podium, driving for Dale Coyne, up to $20 million. A Dale Coyne car worth $20 million. Never would have predicted that 6 months ago.
No
Pato
way.
Award also up over $1 million on the heels of his victory. David Malukas, Graham Rahal, and Stingray Robb all up 7 figures. Our biggest losers, as usual, Penske, unfortunately. Scott McLaughlin, Joseph Newgarden, both down over $1 million after having various problems. Alexander Rossi, the wall just jumped out in front of him. And so he's down over $1 million after that rather unusual crash. Scott Dixon also down over $1 million. So other drivers up and down more modest amounts, but those are the big ones. Any takeaways from Toronto as we get into the back end of the season that we want to talk about?
I thought it was a good show. Things got a little chippy out there. It's a tight circuit, always has been. It always kind of breeds aggression. So guys have been living up to their nicknames as of late. Demon Rasmussen was in force. Will Plower made an appearance north of the border. Christian Lundgaard for sure as well. Anybody who's been known to get the elbows out from time to time, they took their time this weekend.
Yeah, some physical racing on the streets of Toronto.
Yeah, Chase was there.
It really is. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like it was I think it was the weirdest race of the year for me. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it just feels like everything, like the way it started, it got flipped so fast that you weren't ready if you weren't keeping up with every little second of this race. And for me watching it, it's just I think it all kind of started, when Scotty Mac had that caution, had the tire come off, everything kind of got flipped. The strategy, we got to see strategy play out in real time. We got to really learn who the winners and the losers were. Zach Brown was on an off week with F1, so he was in Toronto. So coincidence that Pato won? I don't know. We all know, I think we all talked about how we were kind of not wanting to really lean in that direction. And so that was a huge shock for me. I think that was the first time I've truly been shocked all season at like a winner of the race, but I had no clue that Zach Brown was in Toronto until I got to the facility. But overall, I will say it just goes to show how important the future of real-time strategy decision making is going to be in this sport, because even when we think Chip Ganassi has it all figured out, it's just all about placement and how quickly you can adapt on the fly. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from this race. And a lot of guys like Kiffin Simpson finishing up front was huge. I got to talk to Kiff Dog before the start of the race to confirm my Grand Cayman travels to go wakeboarding with him. I've never done that now that I have a passport, so I'm gonna try to really make that happen. But he's people were really surprised that he's doing well, and I think all three of us here have kind of known that the equipment he's in, he's got great mentorship. I wasn't as surprised that he got a podium, and I don't know how you guys feel about that.
It felt like an inevitability to me. Like, he's been getting better all season, and so really glad to see that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been good. I think we've all said that he's going to be pretty solid. But I mean, a podium is still surprising in my mind. If you would have told me, P6, P7, I'm like, oh, that's a really nice finish for him. But P3 was definitely not something I saw coming. But no, that's good for him. That's great. It's nice to see some different names up top. And then what you were saying earlier, watching that strategy play out was a ton of fun to watch live on TV. I'm sure it was hard to keep up with being at the track, because it was hard enough to figure out sitting on my couch with multiple screens open. I think like Pato pitted right before the caution, I believe. So he came out as the lead car on that strategy and just kind of never looked back. And it was kind of a weird race the way it unfolded after that, because it never really seemed to have flow for it was like a 20 lap period where it was like they'd get around and be another caution, then another caution. It was like it got a little cleaner towards the end, but that was a really weird stint of the race that just seemed to just never get going.
Yeah, clunked up for sure.
Yeah, we have those races from time to time where, there's kind of three distinct strategies, then a weird yellow happens, and now those three strategies become six strategies. And that's kind of what happened. And, typically you see, half the strategies kind of fall out of contention midway through the race, but there really wasn't a point where anybody was really out of it. So, mathematically, a lot of these different teams could kind of justify to themselves that they were on the right track. So you had a lot of aggression kind of mid-pack and back. But yeah, it was an odd one. Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. Kind of tough to get a flow. But yeah, Kiff Dog didn't surprise me that much. I had him as my talent driver, so got a cool 316 points off that.
Yeah, Kiffin Simpson, an excellent choice for talent driver this past week. Tell me, Chase, what's the atmosphere like at his video feeds? Okay, so being in Toronto, being at a street race, I've never done either of those. Like, how crazy is it up there?
Man, it's the Canadian crowd they're so welcoming to motorsport in general, like all across the board. Because there were other events going on there that weekend. I think there was there were a couple of different series that were racing there. They just love cars, man. And I think that's where I really relate to those fans the most. And there's a lot. I'm not saying that it's only Canada that's like that, but they're also inquisitive about it. There's a lot of people there that do know about IndyCar, that are there for IndyCar, but then there's just some random people that show up. But the fact that they're just like, oh, we love drifting, or oh, we like NASCAR, and we just heard there's a race in town. To get people to just come to an event, even if it's not their favorite form of racing, I feel like you got a lot of people up north that were really like that. They're just happy that there is race cars on a course or a track, whatever you want to call it. So to see that, every time the cars came by, in America, people just kind of sit, and they'll chill, they'll watch the cars roll by. There's not a lot of noise. People are kind of talking amongst themselves. When I was there by, I think it was coming right across, I'm not sure, it was the pit entrance where I was at. And I know that doesn't really help everybody listening here, but So forgive me for that. But when there was a big sweet box, and it's like every lap, everyone's just like, yeah, like every time, like they're just excited to see cars rip past them. So, that's what's interesting to me is just the amount of people in Canada that are just so enthused by just watching cars go as fast as they do. And I feel like that's a really at the core a true motorsport fan. You just love watching cars rip track. So that was the cool thing that I took away from it with the fans and just how willing to learn everyone was that I interacted with.
Sounds like a great time. So, time to look ahead to this weekend's race at Laguna.
Real
Go ahead,
quick,
Ben.
I want to address something. There's speaking to what Chase said about Toronto being a great fan base, a great stop on the INDYCAR schedule. Also, second oldest street race in North America behind Long Beach, so there's history there. There's been some talk, some rumors. Not really sure where it got started that we maybe not be back next year. I want to kind of squash some of that. They're saying because of the World Cup, North America is hosting the World Cup next year. Toronto is hosting some at BMO Field, which is on the infield of the course. There were renders put out in March that show exactly where the new temporary stands are going to go, and it does not affect the race course at all.
Yeah.
So
there's another thing I wonder about. Like I hadn't heard it in the context of the World Cup, so I wonder what the IndyCar schedule is going to look like next year because of the World Cup, because of Fox, which Fox is airing the World Cup, and presumably their airwaves will be busy with things other than racing during those few weeks. So
right.
maybe there's
Specifically,
no clash
I
at
think
all.
Mexico City date has kind of been up in the air. I mean, it hasn't been officially announced at all, but obviously they're not going to do that without a firm date anyway. But originally, I think that was supposed to be a spring race, and now World Cup schedules might push that to August, which seems crazy to me.
Seems
August
kinda high.
and yeah. So
Fox, FS1, FS2, we need an FS3, and maybe one of those channels will catch all the restarts.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like World Cups past,
I want
people
FS8 the Ocho.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
Ocho.
I feel like there's kind of a comfortability with soccer fans in North America to find these weird obscure cable channels to watch the matches. So hopefully that frees up Big Fox to still run all the IndyCar races. But remains to be seen.
Like this was a problem during Olympic years in the NBC days, where NBC would essentially impose a break. Not only IndyCar, but NASCAR had to take one.
Yeah.
To accommodate TV. So we'll see how that shakes out. But on to Laguna Seca and on to our top tier. A nice little salary spread. Like there's an almost $7 million spread in this top tier, which consists of Alex Palou, Pato Award, Scott Dixon, and Kyle Kirkwood. What is this tier's name, Ryan?
This is the don't stop till you get enough tier. The Jackson 5 once said it's easy as ABC 1, 2, 3. These guys are just as easy as that. And then he grew up and said, don't stop till you get enough. And these guys are not stopping. So that's what this tier is.
So Palou worth 27.1 million, Kirkwood 20.4. That would be the spread. And what are people's thoughts about who to sign and for how long? There are 4 races left. You could sign anybody for the rest of the year at this point, but do we want to do that? Remembering that there are 2 ovals ahead of us still.
Yeah,
Pato's
I would
strong
say
everywhere.
Pato's the only one that I would probably look at in this tier, period. Except if you are very sure that Alex Palou and Chip Ganassi are going to not run into the issues that they had in Toronto, that Palou doesn't flub on, a couple last laps. And I feel like the majority of people are probably going to look to go ahead and snatch up Palou here at 27-1. I don't know if he gets any lower, honestly, just because of the stretches we have now that he does have a short oval win. I think that he shouldn't finish outside of the top 10 at many of these tracks at all. And, if he gets up front on the road courses like this weekend, I know a lot of people are looking at Andretti because of the history, or looking at Colton Herta maybe. But I can go ahead and say that I went ahead and snatched up Palou. I have him locked in for the rest of the season. I firmly believe that he'll probably be our champion, and that he'll be able to. He knows it's crunch time. You know what I mean? And I feel like with the season he's had, he's not the type of person that's just going to let it all fade away over a couple of bad races.
At this point, they just need to not have any bad days, and they've got it.
Yep.
Like a decent day, like 4 decent days should do the job. And I do think that Laguna is winnable. I think Portland's winnable. I think Milwaukee's the least winnable, but still possibly winnable, just because short ovals do have a bit more variability. And then, I think Nashville's winnable. Like, that is, they use the super speedway package there, right?
From what I remember, yes.
They used the Indy package, yeah. And we saw what Palou did with the Indy package back in Indy. He did quite well. So, it's hard to go wrong signing Palou. Like, if you want to do 2 and have him out for Milwaukee, you could consider that. Palou good, Award good. I'm less sold on the other 2. Like, maybe I look at Kirkwood as we get to those last 2 ovals, Milwaukee and Nashville, coming up in the back half of August. But none of these are a terrible choice. I'll say that. None of them are a terrible choice. I do think that there's a little bit more value. Like, Dixon's probably the worst value of these 4, but it's not a terrible choice.
I mean, you kind of broke down Palou and which tracks are winnable. I think at this point you could put them anywhere on the planet, maybe somewhere else. Every track is winnable for Palou. He can win every single race. He might win every single race. Who knows at this point? But I think we're also at the part of the season where you're going to start making lineup decisions based on where you are in your standings of your league. If you're winning your league right now and you're just trying to hold off people challenging you, I think Palou is the play. You probably have pretty decent budget. He's going to put up a lot of points for you. Maybe not the best value on the board, but I think you just want, at this point, you're signing him 4 points anyway. So I think that's got to be the number one consideration here. Maybe a little different strategy if you're trying to catch somebody ahead of you, especially if you see that they have Palou week in and week out. But I think if you're in first place in your league, Palou is probably the best guy to sign and have him through the rest of the year, because he's going to put up points and he's extremely consistent.
Yeah, CGR had you can call it a bad weekend. I mean, wasn't so bad for Kiffin, but yeah, for the 9 and the 10, definitely kind of an off week. They don't have those very often, so the odds of them having bad weekends back to back, I don't see it. I mean, Palou has never finished off the podium at Laguna. Second, first, third, first. So I don't know, that seems like as close to a lock as you're ever going to get in motorsports. Nothing is ever certain. Definitely track position qualifying is very, very key here. It's a narrow track, only 2 real, consistent passing zones. So, if they have a bad day of qualifying, then yeah, maybe rethink that. But I'm totally comfortable locking in Palou for 2 races. I think he's not worth the top contract on ovals yet. He's certainly no slouch. Obviously, got his short track oval done in Iowa, but yeah, still not a lock for me on the ovals. Yeah, a couple overarching things about Laguna too. So last year they actually ran Laguna in June, which means it was the last race run without the hybrid. So we've never seen the hybrid around here. I'm not aware of anybody testing at Laguna with the hybrid. If they did, I didn't see any splits. So that's a bit of an unknown. So this is traditionally a 3-stopper, kind of bordering on a 4-stopper. I think that could sort of push this into a 4-stopper. It seems to be the effect of the hybrid has been similar to lengthening of a race by 5-10 laps. So I feel like stints are going to be shortened a little bit. Definitely Chevy teams are probably going to favor a 4-stopper and going flat out versus Honda teams that are, prone to save. So if this does turn into a fuel save race, obviously that leans heavily into the Ganassi camp, Andretti camp, a little bit less so. But yeah, I kind of think that Penske and or McLaren could surprise some people with the 4-stop, could shine. So.
All right.
As for the rest of this tier, I just think they're too expensive, personally. Pato's great, but doesn't have results at Laguna. What's he got?
Is Zach Brown going to be there this weekend?
No.
He's probably in Belgium, I would imagine.
It's got to be at Spa.
That's how we will determine if we're going to play Pato at this point. If Zach will be there, because it seems like
he said Toronto was his last North American trip this season.
Dang. Well, for the non-result based races where Pato has not done well in the past, only if Zach Brown is there is when we will play him.
Yeah, Brown out of town effect.
That's a no.
All right.
Brown out of town, dude.
Yeah, a couple people are wondering where we stack up in the official IndyCar week. We'll get to that at the end of the show. That would be fun to do some comparison. Okay, so let's get on to the next tier, unless we have any other thoughts. Okay, second tier. This will be the rest of the drivers above talent eligibility. And up there we have Santino Ferrucci, who did not start Toronto, so his value did not change. So the rule is if the driver does not take part in a session where we award fantasy points, like any session where we award fantasy points, then we don't change their value. And that's what happened with Ferrucci. It's just like what happened with Siegel with the second Iowa race where he didn't take part there. So Ferrucci's still up there, still worth 20.4. Then we've got Colton Herta, Renus VK, Marcus Armstrong, Will Power, and Christian Lundgaard. And which tier is this?
This is the too many bicep curls tier. You look at a guy like Santino Ferrucci, definitely a name of somebody that's trying to do a bunch of bicep curls, probably taking his RV, Renus VK, to the Jersey Shore. These bicep curls, you're doing these, make your arms strong. But if you don't have enough power, your muscles are going to hurt.
All right.
He's spitting.
I've been up since 4 a.m. for F1, so I'm at a little bit of state of delirium at this point when I made these tiers, so it might get a little wacky.
I love that. That's what we need. I'll start really quickly. I'll let you guys kind of dive in. Out of this tier, there is a lot that you can take into consideration for this specific race. Like Santino Ferrucci not starting last week is now a 1 week extra pent up aggression that he's ready to get out on the track. This is a track that literally makes the cars look like they flow like a skateboard almost, especially when they go into the corkscrew. Santino I feel like the last time I talked to him, he did tell me he skated a little bit in the past, could maybe determine some things, might be a Bam Margera fan, who knows. But what I do know is that as long as he can keep his car out of the wall, he may not be bad here. And that's a gut thing completely. However, for his price, it sucks. Let's be honest. Like, it's very hard to justify paying $20 million for Santino Ferrucci when you can look at a legacy man like Colton Herta, who is literally on video visualizing doing the corkscrew on Instagram yesterday with, and I had to hit the little Boosie swerve right, swerve left remix on that video because I just feel like we need more memeable content with Colton Herta. But Colton has to be the safe play out of this entire tier. I would say he is the guy that a lot of people that are IndyCar fans, have been IndyCar fans for a long time, are probably going to flock to here just based off the stats. And you want to believe that his luck's going to turn around at some point. And it's so weird to say his luck turn around. And I guess I mean more of just like getting a win, because he hasn't been super terrible this year. but I will say that Herta is definitely somebody that I would recommend playing. However, he's not in my $1 million lineup this week because it is so crazy to make a good lineup this week with how the prices are stacked. I feel personally, and maybe you guys feel differently about that. But Renus VK, just a little bit too high price at a track like this for me. They did so good on the street courses. He's now in the IndyCar Mustache Championship as well, so shout out to him. And also Dale Coyne, great strategist, but this isn't a street course, so it just depends on if you really want to roll the dice hard. I think he's a great driver. I don't know if I would spend the 20 million on him. Armstrong, I don't really have much to say for him on this one. And then Will Power, I'm joining Penske Pain Train. He is in my lineup this week. He's one of the guys I will have just because of his veteran status, his tenure, and he seems to be the only Penske driver that has been the more consistent staying on the track at races. So I may be wrong about that stat, but it just seems like, hey, he was able to do it last week. At 19 million, I'm willing to roll the dice. Lundgaard, he could be a great play as well. I just don't know if he's going to fit into a lot of lineups unless you're really banking on him to get like a podium. And that's all I have to say about those guys.
I think that actually I'll take over because that transitions pretty well to what I was going to say, is that I think Lundgaard does finish on the podium. So as the cheapest guy in this tier, he's kind of a no-brainer to put in a lineup on my side. Followed probably pretty closely by Colton Herta. I think he'll be strong here this weekend. But outside of Lundgaard and Herta, I think for the concerns you mentioned, especially price, I don't really like anyone in this tier except those two. And it's Lundgaard, one, then a gap, Herta two. And it's just an added bonus that Lundgaard's the cheapest in this tier.
I got a lot of thoughts on this tier. So Ferrucci is a hard no. He's only actually raced at Laguna 3 times. Got 9th last year. Not bad, but that was after a 6-spot penalty for probably the most blatant block I've ever seen. You got 17th and 23. 23 was kind of chaotic. Yeah, it's hard to take much out of 23. But if you were going to take something out of 23, it's that he wasn't that good. And his rookie year in 2019, he crashed out Takuma Sato, just locked up the fronts in the hairpin. Herta, 2-time winner. This is traditionally a great Andretti track. That's why it's called the Andretti hairpin. So he's kind of the sentimental favorite, but I think there's some juice behind it. Most of the poor results he's gotten this year have not been really attributable to him. It's been miscues in the pits, bad strategy calls, on-track antics of other drivers. So I think if things align well for Herta, I think he's in line for a good day. I'm rooting for him. I didn't pick him up for my lineup. But who I did pick up, Will Power. Best results by far for Penske this year. Kind of hard to hang that on Scott and Joseph, but facts are facts. He's kept it on the track just like Chase said. So we saw some aggression. We saw the elbows out, Will Power style, in Toronto, and he still made it to the end. So again, going back to what I said before about Chevy's probably leaning towards a 4-stop strategy, I wanted to have a good mix of Honda guys and Chevy guys. So I did take Pillow, if I didn't say that, but I've got Power and I've got Lundgaard on the Chevy side as well. 5th and 22, 6th and 23. Last year, you can't really judge it. He got pushed off track a couple different times, ended up with a signboard wrapped around his front wing and basically no downforce for half of the race. So yeah, I think he just needs to kind of do the pushing rather than be pushed. And if last week is any indication, he's more than happy to do that. So, yeah, I signed both Willpower and Lundgaard.
All right. So my thoughts on this tier. I think Ferrucci might be the most overpriced driver in the game right now. And I think VK is not far off of that title either, especially with a couple of road courses. When we get to the ovals, they can work some magic with strategy falling the right way. VK is okay on the ovals as well, but I'm not touching him here. I'm not touching him at Portland either. So those two are out. Colton Herta, I'll make my prediction. I think he avenges his father. I think he makes a pass in the corkscrew on probably Pelot, the current Ganassi star. So, yeah, I think this will be a good day for Herta. And beyond that, I think Armstrong is getting near the ceiling. I'm not so enthusiastic about taking him. Power, I like. The curse has to end sometime. Penske has to do something. They have to, right? This is Penske we're talking about.
We've said that before and before and before.
I say this every week. And one of these times I'll be right. I think Lundgaard could bounce back this week as well. I'm not clamoring to sign him. I think Herta and Power are the best choices of this tier. Then probably Lundgaard. Then probably not signing Armstrong. I'm not touching Ferrucci or VK. I think they're pretty overpriced for their equipment and this track. So those are my thoughts on this second tier. Are we ready for tier 3?
I do want to give some flowers to Rinus VK though. I agree. I'm allergic to Dale Coyne at 20 million. Not going to happen ever. I have a mental block there. But hey, it kind of dawned on me this week that all the success he's having, he's basically doing as a one-car team. I mean, we talk about it in F1 with Verstappen. I mean, Jacob Abel's a great guy, but I doubt there's really any engineering data that the 18 car is able to take from the 51.
That's a car that's like not going to be in the leader's circle probably. So, not great.
Not at all. So, we had him on Speed Street this week. So if for anybody watching that wants to check that out after this show, like go hear what he had to say. But to hear him talk about like how the team is operating right now, it just really goes to show how good of like a driver he is, like how present he is in the car, especially like finding out that there's nothing special about their equipment. They're not doing anything over the top. They're not, I mean, according to him, they're not even really that crafty. They're just kind of getting stuff. They're not doing any real deep technical work. So to hear all that, for him just basically having a car out the box and being able to drive that thing the way he did with all these other guys that are not just out there with cars out the box is pretty impressive. So still very expensive, especially for this track, but I will give credit where credit's due.
I would love to see what VK could do in top 3 equipment, like top 4 equipment, like Ganassi, Penske, Andretti, McLaren. Like I'd love to see what he could do in one of those cars. Maybe one of these years we'll get that chance.
Yeah, would be awesome.
Yeah, so many guys we can say that about. Like Malukas is another one that we hear like if he were driving a Penske car, right? Yeah, so speaking of Malukas, what's that, Brian?
If he was driving a Penske car, he'd probably be in the wall. It's
right
really
now.
Up nowadays,
So sure. Speaking of Malukas, he's in our 3rd tier. And this is where we're in talent driver territory. We've got Kiffin Simpson, Felix Rosenquist, David Malukas, Joseph Newgarden, Scott McLaughlin, and Graham Rahal between $17.3 and $15.6 million. And what are we calling this tier?
This is the Simpsons hit and run tier. Legendary video game for anyone who knows it. We have a Simpson on top running away with this tier. You've got Newgarden and McLaughlin, who are basically a walking hit and run every single week. I'm trying to think of when I made this earlier today, but for some reason I just typed in David March Lucas with no explanation on my tier list notes. So I guess I figure I'll say David March Lucas. March Simpson. I don't know why. I don't know where I was going with it. I think I just left it there, but I wanted to at least say it because I wrote it down. So
just had to get up for FP1, didn't you?
Fair enough. enough.
It's
Yeah,
important.
I do have to.
Yeah, we got up early to run this game. Like
Fair.
we'll pull some weird hours. Like the beginning of the season, like half of us were zombies. Like you get like Australia, China, Japan. Like yeah, like we're zombies. Like by Sunday morning when it's still time for like NASCAR ahead of us.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. I forgot who I was talking to.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so I'll start with this tier. So Kevin Simpson, is he getting near the ceiling, or is there still room to grow? I think that's the big question. If there is room to grow, this is the last week of talent driver eligibility. Like, if he has a good day, like he'd be out of talent tier for Portland. That said, I don't think he's beating both of his teammates again. So like I think that propped him up. Like obviously third place is always going to prop you up, but beating your teammates is going to also boost you fantasy wise. I don't know if they perform quite as well, so probably not looking at Simpson. I think Rosenquist can get closer to Armstrong, and I think our best value is still the Penske cars, like McLaughlin, Newgarden, particularly McLaughlin. I like him better on a road course. I probably look at Newgarden once we get back to the ovals to finish the year out. Ray Hall's been sneaky good on some of these road courses. Seventh at Toronto, of course, strategy kept shaking that race up, but we saw some results on road courses earlier this year. I don't hate Ray Hall as a choice, particularly if you're on a smaller budget. So yeah, McLaughlin best, then probably Newgarden, then McLaughlin, then Rosenquist, then Ray Hall, then Newgarden, then Simpson, then Malukas. That's probably how I would rank those from favorite to least favorite. I don't think there's anybody who's absolutely untouchable, but yeah, probably not desperate to sign Malukas or Simpson this week in particular.
Yeah, I'll follow up by saying that there is maybe 1 to 2 guys that I think would be a smart play, especially if you've got 3 guys from those first 2 tiers that we talked about. It's very hard to put any of these guys in your lineup and make it work from what I've experimented with. But I would say that the Graham Rahal play is kind of like your really high dollar dice roll in this tier. Joseph McLaughlin is what I was about to say. Scott
There's an
and
image.
Joseph. Yeah, Scott and Joseph, man. Like I think at this point, like the big Penske fans that are playing this game that maybe put their lineups together based on their favorite drivers, like that's the only reason you would probably do that now, just because it's just such a gamble at that price. And like before, it's so hard. And maybe you guys have experimented a little bit. I know Ben probably has. He's heavy in the sauce when it comes to the numbers. So, I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts too about it. But I would say Felix Rosenquist and Graham Rahal are probably the only 2 guys I would touch out of this tier. And that's being very generous because I have nobody in this tier this week. I just wasn't able to make it work where it felt right to me.
You mean in 100 million lineup?
Yes, in 100 million lineup.
Well, let's say we have more like 110 to work with. Like we haven't had an absolute dumpster fire of a season. Do we think these guys start to become more playable there?
I would probably say yes, but it would be someone like Rosenquist. Just because he's a little bit more quiet and maybe a little bit more consistent than some of these other guys in this tier have been this season. Dave Malukas doesn't really thrill me at a track like this. I feel like most of the guys that we're thinking about when we think about Laguna Seca are probably not in this tier. And I could be wrong, but that's just the way that I'm seeing it. Graham Rahal really still is the only, what I would say, high dollar dice roll that I would be willing to take that I feel would actually get a decent result just because of how cautious, like I don't even know if that's a word. How cautious is what I meant to say, not cautious.
There you go.
How cautious they're probably going to be. I just feel like he's maybe a little bit more on the defensive side than the offensive side, just trying to make sure he's keeping them right where they need to be consistently as a business, on the track. Not saying that he doesn't want to win, but I just feel like where Ray Hall's at this year. They're not doing anything stupid impressive. So they just kind of want to keep it flowing. You know what I mean? So I'd look to him maybe with him having the veteran status, him running here as long as he has. He's really that only guy. And then Rosenquist just kind of being kind of quiet, could sneak up anytime. Also got a sick car this weekend. The Grateful Dead tie-dye car. Looks awesome. So, yeah.
They've had some fun liveries this year.
They have. We had the Ozzy one before he passed, which was incredible, by the way. Shout out to the King of Darkness right there. Love the guy Ozzy, R.I.P. But yeah, I'm hoping we get a Pink Floyd car in the future. That's what I really want. I want the another brick in the wall scheme for Fro.
Hopefully not another car in the wall.
Yeah, no,
don't put that on him. It's not even happening.
Ben, I'm curious. I know. Ben, I want to know though, like I know you kind of do a lot of stuff with with grid rival lineups, looking at what people would have done last year, points wise, things like that. Like what is your take on this tier? Because this was just so hard for me.
So looking at points for last year, hypothetical points, because obviously we weren't running an IndyCar game. It's pretty much chalk. There's nobody really stood out. Nobody had a big nobody had a bunch of overtakes or anything. So, Palou was your highest score at 153 points, 126 for Herta. Rossi 119 in third. Fourth scored a little higher. Oh yeah, that's one notable one. So yeah, I'll get to that one later. That one's more relevant later. But yeah, you were talking about Penske. I do kind of look at the numbers with Penske. That's sort of how I was playing the first half of this year. I kind of consistently week to week, I was like this streak of bad luck or whatever you want to call it. These poor results, it can't continue. You look at what Penske has been for the last 25 years, 50 years, it's law of averages tells you there's no way it can continue this long. And here we are, back half of the season, and it's still the same story. So, I've kind of thrown the numbers out the window with Penske. And you just got to look at human nature. It's like when you show up to a racetrack expecting something to go wrong, it does. And I think no matter how mentally tough these guys are, no matter, Scott seems to be in a pretty good headspace, obviously wasn't immediately after having his wheel fall off, but, kudos to him for not throwing his guys under the bus. I mean, we all know what it is. He doesn't have to say it, but yeah, it's no matter what frame of mind you think you're going in with, it's in your subconscious that, hey, nothing has gone right for me all year long. So I think if you had 1 week that went right for one of these guys, they'd be able to kind of coast on that the rest of the way. But yeah, unfortunately, I did, like I said, I picked up Power because he's been the most consistent. He's been able to, be somewhat immune from all this drama, but when in past years, he's been the source of the drama. So I think that bodes well for him. But yeah, I just, the numbers can't explain, jinxes, man. It's it's the weirdest thing. And
they need more delusion. They need Delulu is the Salulu. That's what someone needs to tell them. Just go in there and act like you've won every race. Pretend you're Alex Palou. Maybe it'll change. Who knows? Yeah, the whole team to do it though. That's hard.
but that's the thing too, is this is a team sport. As much emphasis as we put on the driver, there's 7 guys over the wall every weekend, and all of those guys have to be in that right frame of mind too. So all it takes is one of those people to get the yips and get it in their head that oh man, I can't screw up. What because that's really what it comes down to is you stop focusing on executing your game and you start kind of playing defense against yourself. You start expecting that mistake and of trying to avoid it. Everything you do is trying to avoid that mistake, and that's what takes you
all
out of
you're
your
thinking
rhythm.
about.
That's I think Penske 2025. So yeah, unfortunately, I'd love to be running McLaughlin and Newgarden, but I just can't do it right now. I'd love for this to be the bounce back, but traditionally this hasn't really been a super strong Penske track anyway. So I don't really feel like I'm missing out not being able to justify them. Somebody I am running though. I'm running the Kiff Dog. I'm riding high with Kiff Dog. Maybe I'm getting a little too emotional with it. I'm just, I'm so happy with his, performance last week. But for me, Kiff Dog is man's best friend. That's my talent driver. I'm rolling with him. I kind of see him now in the same light that I was seeing the Meyer Shank cars, as sort of, this is your budget Ganassi pick. I think this proved that, hey, he is capable of putting up a result if he has the car. And, we've known he has the car, but now we know he can rise to the level of the car. And that's sort of what has made Rosenquist and Armstrong appealing earlier in the year, and maybe to a lesser extent now, but they're commanding that kind of money right now, whereas Kiffin still is not. So Kiffin is your budget Ganassi, and I'm riding him.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on this tier?
Yeah, I'll wrap this up pretty quick because I don't have too many strong opinions and we're running a little short on time. McLaughlin's the only guy I'd roster. I'm going back to the plate with a Penske car. It's just the price is too good to pass up. I've said this a million times. I'll say it one more. We'll see what happens. Tempted by Newgarden, but I'll probably just save him for ovals. But I will be rostering McLaughlin, and that's the only one from this tier I'll have.
All right, tier 4. Connor Daly, Marcus Ericsson, Christian Rasmussen, Alexander Rossi, Nolan Siegel, and Robert Schwartzman. And which tier is this?
Ring around the Rossi. Rossi has been the song famously about the Black Death, the bubonic plague. He's been plagued lately by a ton of issues, and all these drivers just kind of keep ringing around above him, below him, and just a lot of movement here. No one has substantially separated themselves from this pack. And yeah, we're just kind of looking at this very similar tier, which is Rossi being in the middle and having some troubles lately.
Who do you like out of this tier, Ryan?
Honestly, nobody.
Who do you tolerate out of this tier?
You tolerate.
It might be catch the falling knife on Rossi. I think he's better than what he's shown. He's pretty cheap at 14.3. If you told me he's going to be cheaper than some of these drivers ahead of him, I like that. Who knows if it'll work out? But again, it's really hard to separate this tier. I think it's got to be Rossi. Just he's got the name. It's like I'm just going back to the well, like the McLaughlin, the Penske, Rossi.
This is home soil for him and for Siegel this week, both California natives.
Yeah, he's had some decent results here in the past, and obviously that was I think a car.
McLaren last year for Rossi.
Right, a car much better tailored for this track. So that it's definitely a downgrade in the ECR here, but I still think he can pull off a decent result, especially considering where his salary is.
Other thoughts on this tier?
Yeah,
no
I'll just say
no walls at Laguna.
No,
at least not like Toronto. So he doesn't have that to worry about.
Siegel kind of caught my attention. He had a decent finish. I'm pretty sure he finished in the top 10 here last year, and I'm not sure
12.
if that was
12 for Nolan last year.
He started like 22nd though, didn't he?
I don't recall, but yeah, it was a good run, and he was brand new to INDYCAR at that point.
And this is home
23rd.
cooking for him too. He's from the area, Palo Alto.
Yeah. So I feel like if you're looking for a McLaren driver this week, just from looking at what he was able to do, I mean, this is a pretty tough track. And for a guy to come in like that and do that, what he did, like move up that many positions, that is encouraging to me enough to where I would throw him in a lineup And this is going to be one of those weeks where I do recommend Siegel. I feel like if he's a hometown guy, maybe it's reverse, because usually like in NASCAR, when the guy is at their hometown track, they do terrible. So maybe it's flip side with INDYCAR, and there's a lot of stats I'd have to go dig up to prove that on the NASCAR side, but I won't get into that now.
You see that home race curse in a lot of series.
Yeah, probably so. So for him to move up that much, though, it gives me confidence that he knows how to kind of make his way around here. So I like him at 13-2. And then Marcus Ericsson as the other guy, like he got a better finish. And I think we all kind of expected that he would get that better finish in the streets of Toronto because of just what Andretti puts together. We talk about how Andretti's really good at this track. I feel like that 5th place finish for Marcus last week could translate into another top 10. He may not qualify the best. And I want some guys that are on these good teams that I can grab really low and that could have some pretty high upside days. So Siegel and Ericsson are the only two that I'm really eyeing in this tier for this week.
And on Siegel, real quick, I see someone in the chat saying no shot Siegel keeps the McLaren seat. Zach Brown was on Fox during the warm-up and said that they're running it back with the same driver lineup next year. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe you mean Dixon. Maybe you mean in the future, a couple years down the road, which
I think
is
he's
entirely
possible.
Year. But it sounds like he'll be back in that seat next year, barring something crazy.
I'm pretty sure I read on a non-AI Facebook page that he was definitely locked in for 2026.
I heard that from a couple of places that they were bringing back Wolverine, and I think he's earned a 2nd year. I think he's earned another full year. He's been improving. He has certainly not been a disaster. He's been far from it. He's had some decent runs. Like some of them, he's run into some bad luck. Like Iowa 1 was looking great until that late crash. Ben, your thoughts on this tier?
Yeah, so I'll back up Chase's Siegel take. I actually like that. So looking at my kind of mock results from last year, he would have scored 33 overtake points with that performance, which is more than anyone else in the field. So that is, didn't lift the total super high. I think 108 is where I have him landing in last year's race, but still that's nothing to sneeze at. I haven't been the biggest Siegel fan, but yes, you're absolutely right. He has kind of, earned his spot. He's earned his spot on the grid. I don't know that he's earned a McLaren seat, but that's where he is at. And he's been vocal about staying. Kanan and Zach Brown have both been vocal about him being back next year to run it back. So I think they've been so public about it, it would require some kind of buyout in order to get him out of that seat. And with the silly season kind of coming down the pipe, I don't see anybody that is worthy of, buying Siegel out of that seat to put into that car. So Siegel is safe.
Okay. So,
but aside from Siegel, let's see. Connor Daly. So I think Connor Daly could be a sneaky good pick. Looking at last year, 4th place was Romain Grosjean in what is now Connor's car. So that's the best finish from a JHR car outside of Connor's 3rd place at Milwaukee last year. So I think that says something. I think, a team that really doesn't have it figured out at a lot of places might actually have it pretty well figured out at Laguna. So,
So there's your sleeper, Connor Daly.
Yeah, there's your sleeper.
All right. Yeah, my really quick take out of this tier as we're running out of time would be Siegel's potentially playable. I think Ericsson's potentially playable. I don't actually have either of them in my $100 million lineup, but you could take those guys. And we'll get through this last tier real quick as usual. Cal Milot, Louis Foster, Stingray Rob, Jacob Abel, Devlin DiFrancesco. One of these weeks I'll say that name the right way. What tier is this, Ryan?
Monterey Charles. You're really taking a shot in the dark on these guys.
There's one driver I like. It's Cal Milot, like usual. Like I can take Callum Ilott. I not even just squeezing it. Like they've been on the uptrend, and he's the more experienced driver like in this group.
Yep.
I agree. He's a great. He called everybody Muppets last week. He's kind of a Muppet himself. He looks like I feel like he could make a great Muppet character. He's gonna be in my lineup. I'm not gonna lie. Just mainly because that's how it worked out financially for the 100 million. But it's good to see him get a good finish. I mean, like, you want to reward guys that are doing well. Like, I'm rolling the dice big this week with some of my plays just because I wanted to make sure I got like Pelot locked in. And so it definitely put me in a tough spot because I've learned from other people that I've talked to in the daily fantasy world that I have a very weird way of creating lineups, but sometimes they end up working out. Like, I don't really look at a lot of the same stuff that most people make.
And she's just cut out for a moment.
Ooh, we got
Ben, your
bumped
thoughts
off.
on this tier?
We got him back. No.
He's gone again.
No thoughts.
No thoughts on this tier. Okay,
This is
fair.
the if you have to tier for me.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair.
And unfortunately, with my 100 mil lineup, I had to. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, so we'll get there just a second. So follow up on where we are in the leagues. Ben posted in the chat. He's in 589th. You're ahead of me. I'm like 715th. I've run into some bad luck. Like throughout the year, I've run into some bad luck. And I put a little bit too much faith in Penske.
Same.
Haven't we all? I'm in the IndyCar official league, I am 267 right now, which is not bad.
Nice. How about you, Chase? And we still have you.
392nd.
Wow, I'm bringing up the rear. This is unusual for me to be bringing up the rear in a fantasy league, but here we are. We all have bad years. Just ask Penske.
Yeah, I want to say real quick on this final tier, my only take is that Louis Foster is, I think, someone who should be on most lineups, and I am strongly considering using him as talent driver.
All right.
So that's my spicy part of it. The
Louis
not hot
Foster.
take is I like
That's
Louis
spicy.
Foster. The spicy take is potential talent driver if I can get off of the McLaughlin train. McLaughlin's a safer choice for sure, but I think Foster might be a big point scorer if you have the huevos to put him as talent driver.
Yeah. So
I do want to just say real quick, Ryan, you are very, very intuitive on that pick because I talked to Louis at the airport before I left Toronto. He was flying straight to Monterey. So it's safe to say he's been locked in all week.
Oh, all business. And
So
you said, I
that's
think I
just
saw your
a
tweet.
little bit of news.
He's back in the running for the mustache. Is that what's happening?
The mustache already grew back, dude. It is full-fledged back that fast.
Talent
That dude
driver,
can grow
it's
facial
done.
hair
I'm going to
fast.
punch the star right now in the lineup and just leave it.
There we go.
That's all I needed.
Hopefully that works out better than it did at Toronto. My $100 million lineup last week featured Louis Foster, and it did not go well. And I scored 521 points. Hopefully we do better than that. My $100 million lineup for Laguna Seca is Colton Herta, Will Power, Kiffin Simpson, Scott McLaughlin, talent driver, Graham Rahal, and Callum Ilott for a total of $99.1 million. And how about you,
All right,
Chase?
mine is I have Pelot, Power, Erickson, Siegel, Ilott, and Foster locked into my lineup this week for 97.2 million total.
Who's getting the star? Who's your talent driver?
I'm probably gonna roll with Ryan. I'm gonna roll the dice with Ryan. We're going Louis Foster talent
Let's
driver.
go.
You know,
How about you, Ben?
I didn't pick up on this before, but I'm with you guys too. So I discounted him because he's never run here. That's not true. He's never run here in the big IndyCar, but in Indy Next, he doubled up and won both Laguna races last year in Indy Next. Louis Foster's the play.
Could be a sign.
Louis Foster, more Louis Foster support. Maybe I'm going to be the one missing out here. How about you, Ryan?
I didn't put one together. It's been a crazy morning.
Understood.
I feel like I contributed enough with the Louis Foster. It's like everyone goes out to lunch and everyone gets water. Last guy orders a beer and everyone else wants a beer. It's like, oh, I like Foster too.
Your lineup is tiers.
There you go.
Ryan.
Yeah, there we go.
That's
There
how
we
you
go.
make your lineup.
Australian for beer.
All right.
So mine real quick.
Go
Pelot,
ahead.
Power, Lundgaard, Simpson Talent Driver, and then prices were a little crowded in the 15 to 20 range, so I didn't have much left, so I had to go with the bottom two, Jacob Abel and DiFrancesco. But
All right, going top heavy with this lineup.
My personal lineup, I'm definitely going to try to squeeze Louis Foster in because you guys are onto something.
All right. And on that note, we have managed to fill an hour. Hope this was useful for all you watching and maybe a little bit entertaining. And next IndyCar race 2 weeks from now, that'll be the Portland Grand Prix. Kind of a home race for Grid Rival. Our CEO sits up in Portland, so a favorite of ours. And hopefully you join us then for our preview show going into that weekend. If you enjoyed this, hit like, hit subscribe, find out every time we're doing one of these preview shows. We do them for F1 and IndyCar, and set those lineups. Have a lot of fun this weekend, and have a great day. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, everyone. All right, we are offline.
Yeah, we had to rush the